Nothing but truth.
Nothing but truth.
On AFR Talk.
Welcome back. Frame Durham, Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk. Yeah, did you hear about this? Well, you're going to. And if you didn't see it, well, if you're watching, you're going to see it. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth on AFR Talk. A review of Thomas Roberts. He's an MSNBC anchor. And he is specifically speaking to civil rights, the Zimmerman case, and media. And he is highlighting the points of how things are framed and how the network really needs to support the type of characterizations. Well, let's just go to Thomas Roberts. Roll it.
Laws. Don't we need to do a lot more about our social contract with each other in this country when it comes to being others? Because as we look at this, we can use this as a great pivot point to talk about race relations in this country. But being an other, whether it's LGBT, because you're then suspected of being a pedophile and a rabid disease carrier. And if you are a woman, well, you certainly don't have a right to your own body and your own reproductive health, because if you do, then you're just a slut who wants to sleep around and use abortion as birth control. And then if you're Hispanic, well, you're just a taker. You're not a maker, and you want to come here and have anchor babies. And you just want to lay off the land. I mean,
now I'm going to call an audible here, and I'm going to need cut 24 and 25, and then we'll return to cut number 8. I don't know what planet he's on, but MSNBC obviously is not liberal enough, and their characterizations of those issues is a bit bizarre, because we have focused on a number of things when it comes to the issue of marriage between a man and a woman, and the differences between men and women, our scriptural problems with embracing and elevating sin as Christians, our policy problems of evidence to suggest overwhelmingly that the very best place for a child is being raised with a mother and a father, and having the redefinition, despite support for traditional marriage, despite that support, the redefinition being carried out and foisted on the people of that particular state by those in black robes. Okay, we can talk about the issue of AIDS, and I guess I'm going into the ground where you'd like to cover, but the problem is, when we talk about AIDS, we've got to identify what AIDS is and who it impacts the most: intravenous drug users and homosexuals. And if we talk about behavior, we can link it and certainly say, hey, there's some correlation between the behavior and, dare I say, causation, in the sense of the spread. But he shifted to the idea that if somebody does not support amnesty, that they think brown people are a bunch of freeloaders. I bring you Joy Reid, the editor of Grio, speaking last week to the issue of immigration, illegal immigration, and the immigration reform bill that was passed out of the Senate and now is being looked at in the House. Here is Joy Reid. Roll it.
Under the comprehensive bill in the Senate, nobody would be made a citizen until 2026 anyway.
Well,
so that gives you 13 years to try to get a path to citizenship later.
Joy, the indignation vibes are, I can feel them.
I mean, didn't we do this before? Wasn't it called indentured servitude, right? Where you come and you pay all this money out, you're not a citizen, but you're legally allowed to work on the farm. Like, this sounds like indentured servitude is what they want, because, as Josh said, what Republicans are afraid of is they don't want to make these folks citizens because they don't think they'll vote for them. In 13 years from now, they don't think they can get there. But it's also a very ugly sort of ethnic argument that they don't want to add more brown people to the population of the United States.
Okay, so it swings back always to the idea of more brown people. It's a color issue. And she continues, and Josh Barro, who's been on this program and is actually an outstanding analyst on the issue of taxes and economic issues relating to government, weighs in. Listen to the exchange. Roll it.
The whole premise is so racially ugly. It underlies the Heritage Foundation studies as these are just a bunch of deadbeat.
Well, if you look at the CBO analysis of the Senate bill, it says that it helps the economy.
Exactly.
It brings in billions of dollars.
This isn't just about the dole, though. This is about middle-class entitlements and people who collect Medicare and Social Security. It's not necessarily a suggestion.
And who pay taxes.
And they pay for it. But people with relatively low incomes get more out of those programs than they pay in.
Okay, that's a fact. About over $100,000. Now, here's what I'm pointing to. We have the economic realities of the welfare state. The bill would predominantly be about letting people in who happen to be from the south of the United States and Central and Latin America, as we know that. And when we think about Mexicans who cross the border and are here illegally, and then we look at the data of people coming here from the general region, we see that there is an increased use of welfare programs. Is it racist to point that out? Do I have a racist bone in my body when I point that out to say we can't afford it? I dare say that if we were dealing with Canadians happen to be white, generally speaking, over majority, I would be saying the same thing. It's an issue of economics. Not only that, there are a whole host of reasons I'm against amnesty. And having even said that, I go to the issue of the two-tier citizenship thing, and I actually could see some agreement with the criticism of that. I also don't think it's going to be a reality when you have the Director of Homeland Security being the arbiter of the enforcement of the components of security in this bill, among other things. But I digress. My point is, we're talking about economics. And they're talking about race. Now, if we address it economically and say, no, we can't afford it, okay, it's a pretty much open and shut case. You can... what the Heritage Foundation has put out, what our good friends over at the Center for Immigration Studies have pointed out, it's clear. Now, I could take it on the rule of law case, too, and I'm comfortable with that because I also believe in that. But if you're just taking purely economic, I'm saying this is a problem. But if we go into the racial, then we make the assumptions. It doesn't become anything but I guess what they're interpreting, my inferred bigotry, which they are inferring and saying I'm implying by my stance. Do you see where this goes? Do you see why we're not solving problems? Why when we want to deal with actual data, when we actually deal with policy and incentivizing human beings, black, white, brown, George Hamilton, tan, Seamus, pale? That's right. You see where that gets us? We're dealing with the human condition. We're dealing with our fallen nature. We're dealing with incentivizing dependence. Yet if we frame it in that way, as human beings, as Americans, without hyphens, wow, what happens? You start making decisions based on substance. Does that mean we abandon the law and say people are unequal under law? No, we don't. That's why we don't support hate crimes legislation. But I digress. The point is, we are making decisions based on the evidence. Economic, national security. You can throw in what you like, cultural. We're making decisions on the substance and the evidence. Be very wary of people that want to tap into our outrage at what has existed in every society, which is some form of racism, some form of two-tier society. Go to Islamic society and look at how Christians and Jews get dhimmi status. That's pretty outrageous and, well, another digression. Let's go back to Melissa Perry responding to Thomas Roberts on MSNBC about how this network really needs to get real and get a show addressing the other and the social contract. Clip 8. Roll it.
And I want to challenge this network. We need to have an I am other agenda and have a forum for it, because others need to unite to talk about this and figure out where we're going as a country. The social contract that we have currently negotiated that is so wrong, and how this is happening in a country where we have this huge group of people that it's supposed to be a melting pot, but we treat each other with such disdain, it's not even funny.
Well, I'll tell you what, Thomas, the first thing I'll say is I will absolutely take you up on that challenge. If we can convince the folks where we work, I would happily co-host with you a long-term town hall special around this or anything else.
Let's do it. Can I get in on that?
Can I get in on that? But will you call me a name if I reference the Tea Party and Good Light? Will you make a obscene name, reference that? Why are you listening to this show? Because it's nothing but truth. It's great to be with you. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Check out the website and go to the Facebook page. But before you do that, check out the news at the top of the hour. Chad Groening, Chris Woodward, Charlie Butts, and the crew of American Family News. And then I'm back with Pete Sepp and how the Farm Bill split is not good. AFR Talk.